Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Roel and Francois.
This episode is proudly sponsored by MetaGeek. For more than a decade, network professionals have used MetaGeek Wi-Fi tools to deploy, maintain, and troubleshoot wireless networks. Visit metageek.com/CTS and use the code CTS10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase of MetaGeek brand hardware and software.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Clear to Send show. This is Francois Burgess, your host, and I'm here with Roel today. Good morning, Roel.
Good morning. How are you guys?
I'm very good. Excited about this one. So we're going to be talking about event Wi-Fi, and we asked someone with a really cool last name to come on the show today to talk to us about event Wi-Fi. His name is Raymond Hendricks. And good morning, Raymond.
Good morning.
Well, good afternoon over here, but yeah, good day to you guys.
Yes, you're across the pond, so it's the afternoon for you.
Yeah, it's 3 p.m. over here at the moment, but yeah, I'm good. Looking forward to this episode. So yeah, good.
So, Raymond, you actually did a 10 talk at the WLPC in Europe a couple months ago, and that's actually how I got the idea to record this one. We wanted to talk about event Wi-Fi a little bit more than 10 minutes with you. And so, I really liked your 10 talk, and I'm into sports a lot, so I was really excited. We're like, he set up Wi-Fi for sports events. That sounds interesting. So I was like, okay, I'm going to ask him if he wants to come in the show, and then he said yes, and so we have you today. So I'm really excited about it as well. So why don't you present yourself to the audience? Just tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got started in Wi-Fi, who do you work with, and so on.
Okay, well, thank you for the compliments. My name's, as you already heard, Raymond Hendricks. I'm 41 at the moment, years old. I'm married, 2 kids, and I live in the Netherlands. As I said in my 10 talk as well, I started my RF career with the Dutch Department of Defense. I was commander of a jamming vehicle. I'm used to doing 16 kilowatts of power, and now we're doubling with 100 milliwatts. But that's basically my introduction to RF and my interest in the basis of my interest in Wi-Fi. After my military career, I started as Microsoft certified trainer, and the drawback of being in the Dutch education system is you have like 70 days off every year, and yeah, it's a real drawback. So that's why I started freelancing, and some guy asked me to do an analysis and a setup for the European Championship final, which is soccer, in Eindhoven in 2007, I think it was, or 2006 even. And back then it was only Wi-Fi for the photographers behind the goal, so they could instantly upload their pictures. But yeah, a good event. And then it kind of grew. I did 2008. I did 2007. I got asked to do the I call it again in English, the entire plan for the European Championship Soccer Under 21, and for the Dutch Soccer Federation, and got asked to do project management on that as well. And so I kind of roll into the whole sport events circuit. And yeah, basically I got asked again and again and again. So yeah, my military career helped me in preparing for any unforeseen circumstances.
That's awesome. So now you have your own company, right?
Yeah, I started in 2004. So almost over 13 years now.
Wow, congratulations.
Nice.
Well, thank you.
So all you do is event Wi-Fi, or do you do something else? Do you do like typical Wi-Fi deployments for, corporate environments, or?
I do I do a lot of stuff. I started with just doing Wi-Fi as an add-on. So
Okay.
I still have some clients where I do everything from server to smartphone, system engineering or system maintenance and stuff. But I'm more and more focusing on Wi-Fi. So my clients vary and my work as well, but now it's over 60% Wi-Fi, and then it's and it can be a survey, it can be troubleshooting, and in events, or as I see it, icing on the cake.
Okay, sounds good. So it's Wi-Fi, but every project is different, right?
Oh yeah.
So okay, that's good. I like that. So if we go back to the main subject of event Wi-Fi, so what are the different characteristics of an event Wi-Fi network? Can you talk a little bit about that?
The requirements always vary. It can be an event where I just need to set everything up for the organization, and if it's for example, a festival, what they need is, for example, internet connectivity for payments, which is very critical in that point.
Yeah.
But it can also be public Wi-Fi for different events. So it kind of varies, and that's the challenges of event Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and I can imagine the environment changing. Sometimes it'll be outdoor, sometimes it'll be indoor, right?
Yeah, it can be outdoors, where if you do a site visit, there's nothing at the moment, and a week afterwards there's like lots of tents, and I've even had pavement put down just for event. But also indoors event. There's a event location in the Netherlands called the Gashouder, which is basically a metal cylinder.
Okay. So who is your customer? Is it the event organizer, or is it the person, like the owner of the facility?
Most of the times it's the event organizer.
Okay.
And I work with, for example, Riedel Communications. They sometimes hire me for events, or event engineers, which is a large Dutch event company. And if it's a complex Wi-Fi environment, they'll hire me to do the event. And I do have.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, so when they hire you for an event, do they tell you where the tents will be located? Do they give you like a floor plan of the actual setup?
Yeah, they'll after a lot of asking, I'll get some resemblance of a floor plan. But it tends to vary. Sometimes I'll get a floor plan which is outdated. Sometimes I get a floor plan which isn't complete. I always call it like event Wi-Fi is like Boy Scout Wi-Fi. Be prepared.
Yeah. Okay. So you have your tools under your belt and you're ready to go.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's good. All right. So, and so do you get to plan your deployment in advance, or is it already like you show up you show up the day off or the day before, and then you try to do what you can, the best you can?
No, we plan. We plan meticulously.
Okay.
Even saying, okay, cable length and patch locations and everything. But still, it's a plan. It isn't set in stone. It's really a starting point, so to say.
Okay. All right. So, okay. And you're trying to follow the plan as much as you can, and you adapt yourself.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So do you have to bring a lot of gear with you, all the cables, the fibers, the equipment, or is it provided by the organizer?
We try to be as self-reliant as possible. So we tend to bring everything, and we start with a basic set, which is for example, a high availability firewall, to FortiGates connected, a high availability controller, for example, a zone director connected, and high availability switches, and connected to each other, and then of course the UPS, and that's our basic set, which we set up in a central location. And from there, we bring our own core switches, we bring our own fiber, we bring our own edge switches, APs, of course, cabling, everything.
So you bring the whole network infrastructure, not just the wireless portion.
No, we bring everything.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. So you control it end to end. You have, so there isn't any finger pointing when there's an issue saying, hey, it's not wireless, it's the wired side. You're able to troubleshoot it wherever there is an issue.
Exactly. We control everything, and then we usually use, for example, Zabbix. I'm not sure if you know it. It's an open source management tool and control tool.
Oh, yeah.
So we can easily see when there's something wrong. But sometimes you get, most of the times we get problems which people say, it's a Wi-Fi problem, but isn't a Wi-Fi problem at all.
Yeah, it just masks as a Wi-Fi issue.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, what you do is help fix the problem, even if it's not Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the most important is to have to offer internet connectivity to your customer, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's what I understood from the 10 talk. Okay, so we can pretty much say that you're offering Wi-Fi as a service, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So your customer is buying Wi-Fi as a service, then you coming and you set up everything.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, depending on the location, we'll either have a wall outlet, for example, which our internet uplink is from. But if we're unlucky, we'll need to set up a point-to-point link for internet connectivity. And if we're really, really unlucky, we're stuck with a satellite uplink. But yeah,
okay.
We'll make it happen.
And so when you go and work on this type of projects, do you bring other people on, or is it just you?
No, if it's a small event then it's just me. But most of the times there's a lot of other people as well.
Okay. So you get to subcontract people and help you with the setup of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And basically, for example, if it's an event for, let's say, 2-3 days, and it's a large event, we'll probably be 2-3 people working 2 days in advance, and then the teardown is like half a day.
What are some of the typical issues you run into when you got the whole network running and then you know the Wi-Fi is working? What are some of those typical issues people have after the fact, after the installation, that you tend to troubleshoot?
I've had payments not going through, but then again, people saying, payments not going through, but bank cards are going through, but credit cards aren't going through, but still blaming the Wi-Fi. But it turned out to be the payment service which had a problem. I've had a guy saying, I can't connect to the Wi-Fi, but he had a custom Linux kernel on his phone. Yeah, it varies a lot.
Do you ever run into interference that will make your Wi-Fi not as good? It'll be a degraded service to people, and you've had to try to figure out where that source of the interference is coming from?
Yeah, that a lot as well. Well, not a lot, but we tend to look at it at advance. But I've had an event where, and I think that's one of my slides in the 10 talk, but basically the wind had changed near to an airport. So the planes took different landing runways and coming over the event using their ground radar. And I just saw a lot of DFS events resulting. Well, basically, I got the call saying people can't be scanned anymore. The tickets couldn't be scanned anymore. And then looking at the events in Wi-Fi events, and then I just saw a lot of DFS events happening. So
you just removed all the DFS channels from the list and put them on Uni 1 and Uni 3.
Yeah, well, Uni 3 isn't that common in Uni 3. This was an event in the UK, so prior to August this year, I think. So I couldn't use Uni 3. So what I did is the APs at the location where they scanned the barcodes, I've put those in Uni 1 and just let everything else sort out themselves around Uni 2, Uni 2 extended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how do you deal with capacity on the 2.4 band? Because I've done a couple of Wi-Fi for events, and this is a difficult part. You limit it to the 3 channels, and it's kind of like a best effort thing in the 2.4. Like, how do you deal with the high density deployment?
Well, first of all, I live in I live in Europe, so I've got 4 channels. I tend to in high density environments I tend to use 1.5.9.13. But then again, on as few APs as possible. So I'll turn off 2.4 on a lot of APs, but still use 1.5.9 and 13.
So you do a short 4-channel plan.
Yeah.
And so you don't hear any other APs in the environment, like neighbors and such, using like 6 or 11 that could just create interference.
Most of the locations are outdoor where there's nothing, or not a lot. And if I'm indoors, I tend to ask for example, if it's a hotel and there's hotel Wi-Fi, I'll ask to turn it off.
Okay.
So I try to minimize adjacent channel interference and then use 1.5.9.13.
And if you check at the stats of the client connecting to the Wi-Fi, do you have most of the clients connecting to the 5 gig band, or is it like 50-50? What's your experience with that?
It's growing now. And also it depends on the events. That's fun. You see funny things during a lot of events. I've done events called the Next Web, which is a very high-end event in the Netherlands. And you see, for example, a lot of iPhones connected, Apple devices connected. So you tend to see more usage of 5 gigahertz.
Okay.
And if you do another event where there's a lot of how do you call it, programmers, I've had an event with a lot of programmers, then you see a lot of Android devices, probably because it's easier to get an app tested on an Android device than on an iOS device.
Yeah.
But then again, I try to use band steering as much as possible. So from probably 50-50 and up. 50-50, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, and sometimes even more 5 gigahertz.
Do you sometimes try to do like what I call the manual band steering, meaning setting up different SSID on different bands to force, compatible clients to connect on the 5 gig?
It depends. Because sometimes I do. For example, I'll say event and event fast, the 5 and the fast is the 5 gig. So people automatically, if they see it, they'll use the 5 gigahertz, and if you don't see it, fine, they'll use the normal one. But then again, sometimes I need to set up an SSD for the organization. I need to set up an SSD for the press. I need to set up an SSD for the students. I need to set up an SSID for equipment, and I need to set up an SSID for. So I'll have 5-6 SSIDs up.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if
So
I couple them
you're generating overhead. Yeah.
This episode is proudly sponsored by IPA, the visual packet analysis software from MetaGeek. As a Wi-Fi professional, you probably understand the benefit of packet analysis for troubleshooting wireless issues. And if you have any experience with most common packet analysis solutions out there, you also understand that sifting through hundreds of lines of data to find the cause of a network problem is a little like looking for a needle in a haystack. IPA takes a visual approach to wireless frame analysis. So instead of dumping raw packets for you to evaluate, IPA presents your data in multi-layered pie charts that make it easy to understand which networks, devices, and packets are using your available wireless airtime. With fast and easy filtering options, color-coded labels to show data throughput versus management overhead, and expert tips based on observed conditions, IPA makes 802.11 frame analysis easier than ever. Visit metageek.com/CTS and use the code CTS10 for 10% off your purchase of IPA.
So yeah, there I even try to minimize the number of SSIDs in a certain location, but sometimes I can't. So what I always do is disable low data rates, so I'll at least cover that bit.
Yeah. Okay. So which type of equipment do you use? Do you always use the same vendor's equipment, or do you use like a mixture of different vendors? I'm guessing you use external antennas. Is it from a specific company, or can you talk about that?
Well, the equipment I use depends on who hires me.
Okay.
For example, Riedel Benelux has I think a contract with HP.
Okay.
So they'll use Aruba. And then I'll use Aruba. Event engineers use Ruckus with the directional solutions. So I'll use Ruckus. If it's an event I do myself, I'll use Arrowhive. TerraWave antennas. So it varies.
Ventave. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's cool
so
that
you get depending on what you work for. Okay.
Yeah. It's good that you could utilize any vendor, right? You're not restricted to just one specific vendor because that's what you're used to using. You're able to step into an environment and be like, yeah, I could use that solution or this solution, and it makes you more dynamic. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I'm a big fan of the CWNP program, because it's vendor neutral. And basically RF is RF. It's just a different checkbox and a different field for a certain vendor.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that some vendors are are there features that you wish some vendors had that another vendor did have because it made it easier for you to manage the event? Or do you find that some vendors have some hardware that just couldn't stand up to the event or the amount of devices that are there on the network?
I haven't used it, but I've seen it fail. For example, the European Championship Athletics, and I did the press Wi-Fi and organization Wi-Fi with Riedel and their Aruba network, which performed great. But the public Wi-Fi was done by another party using Ubiquiti. And it couldn't cope.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. Too many clients, and it couldn't cope basically.
Mm.
That doesn't matter, but I still use Ubiquiti, but I'll use Ubiquiti for their point-to-point links. They have great point-to-point links.
Yeah, because they have great point-to-point solutions, and I haven't deployed Ubiquiti in a high-density environment. I mean, they do say they can support quite a bit of devices, and we only know of one place so far that's done it, which is their FedEx forum. And they actually discussed this in a previous episode, but it's interesting to hear how other people are using it, especially if they're using it in a high density and high capacity environment, to see whether or not it can stand up hardware wise to the amount of traffic that's going through just from what people are doing. And since you're deploying, end-to-end network for these events, do you also look at analytics? Are you looking at what people are usually browsing for? What are they looking at over the wireless network?
Yes, we do. That's why we use centralized firewall. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with FortiGate, but yeah, you pretty much see everything happening. And what we do, basically, I'll limit the bandwidth on the AP side, and then also limit the bandwidth on the VLAN on the FortiGate, and even if needed, I can limit the bandwidth per IP. So I'll have control about over the bandwidth, and yeah, I can see what people are doing on that, and yeah, even how do you call it? Talk to people, say to tell them that what they're doing isn't allowed.
So do you use like next generation firewalls?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you size the network? Like, how do you know which? Like, I'm guessing the event organizer will tell you, we will be expecting, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. So do you find yourself using different type of equipment depending on the event, or do you always use the same set of equipment and kind of oversize it so it can be used for a different size event?
No, well, we have basic, different basic sets. So if it's a small event, it'll be a rack with just one firewall, one AP, or one controller, and then one switch. And then for example, a license of 10 APs, and with that we can service like 500 event of 500 people.
Okay.
Larger, we'll use a larger set with larger APs. But yeah, it varies, but always probably it's always over dimensioned.
Okay. All right. So you have different like Fortinet firewalls, and you pick and choose the one you're gonna use depending on the size of the event.
Yeah, we'll have a 60 or 100 or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. And so when you set up your contract with your customer, do you have any SLAs, or is it just like a best effort thing? I'm going to provide Wi-Fi, for the event, for the time of the event, or do you have like something that says the Wi-Fi has to be up, 90% of the time?
Well, luckily, there aren't. Well, sometimes you'll have an SLA, but most of the times we don't.
Okay.
And but yeah, most of the time it's just best effort. But then again, I haven't had any event where the Wi-Fi went down really bad. We've had Wi-Fi where parts of the Wi-Fi went down, but that was power failure or yeah.
Okay, or internet going down.
Yeah, I've had internet going down because of the TV crew coming up, putting their satellite dish right in front of my point-to-point link. But I've seen bulldozers running over cables. But yeah, most of the times it's an external factor destroying the network.
So for your internet connection, do you have like a backup internet connection just in case? Maybe like a LTE connection? Or you're talking about satellite, but like, is it something you consider before the event?
Yeah, well, it depends on the requirement, but sometimes, yeah, we'll have an LTE backup, but then, for example, just for payment services, but not for the public. So if the link goes down, the organization will be able to continue, payments will continue, but public Wi-Fi won't be available then.
Okay, so when you set up Wi-Fi for events, are you the only one? Are you the only company setting up Wi-Fi, or do you find that sometimes other companies come and set up their own Wi-Fi? For instance, maybe someone will set up a Wi-Fi for the press when you're setting the Wi-Fi for the main event, or you know what I mean. Sometimes it tends to be like a not that organized and centralized.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean, but most of the times we'll do everything for the event.
Okay.
But for example, if there's exhibitors, they sometimes have their own AP setup or router setup just for their demo purposes. What we usually do is say, okay, if it's not allowed, if you do it, we'll find you and hunt you down, basically. And without permission. I mean, if they can ask permission, but then they have to adhere to the channel plan we use. So if they'll use, for example, if they only able to use 2.4, they need to use 1, 5, 9, or 13, not set it to auto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you set your equipment to auto? Do you use a static channel plan most of the time? Do you find that you trust the auto?
Yeah, no, 2.4 I'll say use static, and 5 gigahertz I'll use auto, and in case of DFS, I'll try to steer a bit.
Since you've worked with different vendors' equipment, do you find that there's a vendor that does a great job at this auto planning or auto channel selection, especially after tuning it, or do you find that the algorithm is just not there yet?
Let me think. Basically, without triggering, I think Aruba tends to do Uni 380 megahertz channels out of the box, which is really horrid.
Yeah.
Looking at, for example, Aerohive, you can, if you push your configuration to it, and it automatically uses whatever bandwidth you use. And I think with the systems I've used, I think Aerohive and Ruckus are both very decent in their auto channel plan, if you set the parameters correctly.
Okay.
And so I'm guessing you only use 20 megahertz wide channels, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Even before listening to Devin's episode, right?
Oh yeah, there's nothing else than 20 megahertz channels in my environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you find that there's some events where you could do a 40 megahertz channel with, or it's just not a possibility because of how large the events are and you have the density of access points?
And I haven't seen a event where it's possible yet.
Okay.
So now the question, whenever you set up Wi-Fi for a sport event and you're really into the event, do you get do you lose your Wi-Fi concentration and tend to look at what's going on the field?
It depends. With the women playing beach volleyball, it's pretty challenging. But yeah, what I always say is when the event starts, I'll be really, really, really busy. And when the event is going on or is happening, I tend to be do as little as possible. If I'm really running, then there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see what you mean. My brother actually works in the sport industry as well. And he's a huge soccer fan, and he works in the soccer industry, but he doesn't really get to enjoy it. Like, when you have a game or something, he's always on the go. And then if something happens and it cools down, he gets to watch the game for like 10, 15 minutes at a time. But yeah, I get what you're saying. You're there to do your job first. So,
yeah.
So what's next for you? Do you have any events coming up? Exciting projects?
Well, if I'm lucky, we've got asked to do a quote for a Shell event in February, which is a large event in Singapore.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So that's basically the next event for me on my list. It's winter now, so not that many events going on.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to study the frequency that you can use in Singapore.
Yeah, I already looked at that, but it's only Uni 1 and Uni 3, so missing a lot of channels. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's good. So I was going to ask you if you only work in the Netherlands or if you get to work somewhere else. So I guess this answers the question.
Yeah. I've been in London. I've been in Belgium, and then Netherlands, of course. And yeah, this would be my first Asian visit.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so hopefully you get the contract. So, Roel, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I always think it's interesting to set up Wi-Fi events because even on my campus, there are events that pop up and they're outdoors. So we don't have a lot of outdoor Wi-Fi. So we tend to put up temporary access points and run power and run fiber wherever we need to. So I understand like how challenging that could be. And especially when it comes to, when you need to work with the users themselves and they're all trying to do something very specific. But for me, during a campus event, it's more of when someone's trying to present. So we'll run into issues where someone's trying to present something and they need to access the internet. And usually they won't ask for, a lot of these times, people just assume Wi-Fi is outdoors. And on my campus, we have a lot of historic buildings and structures that we can't mount anything to. So a lot of times people just assume Wi-Fi is out there. So they'll have an event and not request Wi-Fi. And of course, I'm not sitting there looking at what events are coming out. And it's usually one of those urgent things where I end up rolling out with a tripod and a pole and mounting APs, pointing it in the direction of where people need it.
Yeah, sounds very event-like, yeah.
So I actually have a last question, Raymond. So, you do a lot of event Wi-Fi, so it's like a temporary solution. You come up, you set up your gear, and then you rip everything down and you go home. Do you have customers sometimes asking you to design a Wi-Fi solution for like let's say a stadium, an arena, or anywhere they have events, but like a permanent solutions that they would just keep for any event they would have in the facility?
Sadly, no. I haven't seen those requests coming up yet. But yeah, in the Netherlands, I see sometimes Wi-Fi setups for in large stadiums, but then it's really by design, and then it'll be great. So they don't need me.
Okay.
And in other situations, I'll tell them to turn it off, and we'll build a better one. And then it's not how do you call it? There's no no large return on investment for them to keep it or to put a permanent one there.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's not really worth it for them to invest in the whole solution if they only have like a couple of events a month or something.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Raymond. Thank you for spending the time with us. It was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. Where can people find you online?
They can find me on Twitter at Raymond Hendricks. There's my website I've just put online. It's venividiwifi.com. So it's Venividi Wi-Fi basically on anything, but it sounds better in Dutch. Venividiwifi.com. I've put up internet basically, and on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. So your Twitter handle is just your name?
Yeah, at Raymond Hendricks.
Okay. All right.
Look for the rooster in the picture.
All right, perfect. And you have a new website. That's what you were saying, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I tried to find your website, and I got a hard time finding it this morning. Because if you type Hendrix IT Wi-Fi, you have a lot of stuff popping up. So I had to write NL in the Google search to find your website.
Yeah, then you'll find it. But yeah, Venividi Wi-Fi will probably be found better as well.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Raymond. Thank you very much for the time this morning. And I wish you all the best for the future. Hopefully you get this contract in Singapore and you can come back and talk about it.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
No problem. It was a pleasure. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, just as always, if you enjoyed the show, you can leave a review on iTunes or leave us a comment. You can join us through our website, cleartosend.net. We have a button at the top called Ask a Question. You can literally ask a question with your voice if you want to, or you can type it, and then we can cover different episodes. So yeah, we'll keep working on it, and we'll see you next week for the next episode. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.